Are you like most sales and other professionals who want to grow their wealth faster than what they are currently doing through their company 401k, even with that company match, the stock market, or just plain saving money? Would you sleep better at night if you had the financial freedom to be job optional in just 3 to 5 years through investing in real assets? Maybe you don't want to stop working, but wouldn't it be cool if you could retire a decade earlier than most? And do the traveling you and your family have planned for years while you're still young and can enjoy it? Let's face it, most busy professionals don't have the time or desire to take on more work outside of their W-2 to grow their wealth. On The Wealth Flow, each week we share the stories, the investments, and take a deep dive into the various asset classes that can deliver that accelerated growth to your portfolio passively. That's right, no extra work for you. Instead, we'll put your money to work. Learn what the 95% aren't talking about and join the top 5% of earners today on The Wealth Flow.
All right, welcome to The Wealth Flow. My guest today is Kurt Power. He is an alternative investment space. He's been in the alternative investment space for 10 years in a variety of roles. Currently, he's the business development manager for Quest Trust Company. He is a certified IRA service professional. He is a former VP of Investors Relations for Pinnacle Storage Properties and former sales manager for Think Realty, originally out of Kansas City, and is now living in Houston. So, Kurt, and we were talking a little bit ahead of the call here, and hey, we know some mutual friends, and so that's pretty cool. We're not too far away. You're in Houston, I'm in San Antonio,
yeah, it's an easy drive.
There you go, exactly.
Yeah.
What I like to usually start with, Kurt, is really kind of your background and what led you to the financial services, what led you to real estate.
Sure. So, I grew up, I tell people I'm from Kansas City because in my mind, Kansas City is my home. I lived there for almost 12 years and that's where I broke in the industry. It's where I met a lot of the connections. And frankly, it's kind of where I grew up out of college and kind of found my way in the world. So I'll always tell people Kansas City is my home, but I'm originally from a really small town, Ollie, Iowa, southeast Iowa, about 150 people. So to say I had big dreams, big ambitions from a kid early on is an understatement. I mean, when you grow up in a small town, your options are limited. You're either going to work on the farm, the factory, or you're going to drive 20, 30 miles to go work at the grocery store. So none of those things appealed to me at all. No, I did work at the grocery stores in college, but I knew enough then okay, no, I'm not doing this forever. Right. So I use fitness as the vehicle to kind of quote, get me out of the small town Iowa. So my best friend who I also grew up with moved to Kansas City a year before me, gave me my first job in the fitness industry. And I wanted to do that because I had seen what fitness had done for me. And I'm the kind of person that when I really get into something that I see results in, that I see pluses, see my life getting better and better, I want to share that with as many people as possible. So being a trainer, being a fitness manager, that was the conduit for me to help people. I am also somebody that also is constantly trying to set new goals. I want to keep improving, keep doing more. So that's what led me into the real estate space. One of my clients was working for a big conglomeration of companies in Kansas City. And one of them was the REI Expo that we had purchased from Tim Harridge out of Dallas. We rebranded that to Think Realty. So that really was how I cut my teeth in real estate, was on the marketing, events, media side, and fell in love with it. It was kind of in the spirit of fitness where you want to help people. This just became the new vehicle of how I was going to try to help people. And, you blink your eyes and you've been in it 10 years. And I've had like anybody in the business, I've had some really high highs. I've had some low lows. Right. That's part and parcel of this business. So, but extremely blessed to be where I am. I've had great opportunities. I've traveled all over the world because of this industry. I've been able to do things that I never would have thought possible because of the people that are in this industry that have helped me out. So I love it. I want to share this with the masses that I believe this is the best way to take control of your life from a financial perspective, from a legacy perspective. This to me is the tried and true best way that you can do that. And I'm all for it and want to help as many people as possible.
Yeah, sounds good. And why don't we jump into to Quest and maybe give us an overview of the company. How long have they been in business, and then what the services are that you offer.
Sure. So Quest Trust Company has, I believe it was last year was the 20th year that Quest has been in business. So it's an established, tried and true company that is still growing. And that's exciting for me. I like being a part of organizations that they've got some seasoning behind them, but they're not resting on their laurels. They want to keep getting better, keep growing, keep getting the message out. So we simply take a product that can be a little vanilla to people, can be a little boring. We're talking about retirement accounts, self-directed
Right.
IRAs. People laugh all the time like, well, that's going to put me to sleep. Maybe it will, but we like to have fun with that. Hence our phone number, 855-FUN-IRAs. We think that taking control, not just of your retirement, but taking control of where you are investing your dollars, be it retirement dollars or your own personal funds, that's really the spirit of entrepreneurism. That's the spirit of capitalism. That's the spirit of one of the foundations of what America is about. That's not to be rah political, but that's just the nature of it, that we feel that people who are empowered, people who are educated are going to have the most success. So we spend an absurd amount of time and resources and effort educating people all across the United States. We probably do about 600 events a year between the ones that we host individually and ones that we go out across the country. So we want to get the word out, not only about this product, a self-directed IRA, and let people know what it is not, how you can use it, what you can do, what you can't do. But we also want people to know that Quest Trust Company, this isn't a biased opinion, this is a fact, is the best self-directed IRA custodian in the country with the highest education levels. We have the best trained staff. We have the fastest processing times because many of us are investors ourselves. And we understand that when you have a deal, you want that deal done yesterday. You want it under contract yesterday. You want your dollars put into that syndication as fast as possible so you don't lose the deal. So we're sensitive to that. So thus we will process everything across the board that we do within 2 days tops, 24 to 48 hours. So that differentiator has helped set us apart in the industry, as well as our customer service and as well as just the general culture and attitude of the company that's second to none.
Right. Okay. And maybe give us an overview of a self-directed IRA, how maybe you originate one,
Sure.
and how much you can contribute. Kind of give us just the third grade
Yeah.
level understanding of
Sure.
it. That'll help me out.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So it's important to know that, though it's called a self-directed IRA, we want to make people aware very quickly that that's not necessarily a type of IRA. Really, when we say self-directed IRA, it's a marketing term more than anything else. The
okay.
IRA at Quest is the exact same, whether it's a traditional IRA, a Roth IRA, or a SEP IRA, a solo 401k. It's the exact same retirement account that you'd have at a Fidelity or, TD Ameritrade, whomever that is.
Yeah.
The difference between, us and them, a self-directed custodian like us and the institutional side like Fidelity, is simply what that custodian allows the client, the customer, to invest in. With your Fidelities of the world, it's the traditional stock, bond, mutual fund, CDs, things like that. With Quest and other companies like Quest, we allow you to take that same retirement vehicle and invest it into alternative assets, things like real estate or promissory notes, or even passive syndications in private companies, oil and gas, mineral rights. I mean, really anything and everything under the sun that you can think of, you can take that retirement account just as you could go buy stocks. You can actually go buy a piece of real estate. You can go buy shares of a company. You can loan money to borrowers. You can become the bank. Let your IRA be that bank. So that really is the key of what we do, is educating people and let them understand that it's the same IRA you've already got at Fidelity. It's just a different asset class. And what that represents now is true diversification. It isn't just, well, I've got mutual funds, stocks, and bonds, and I keep buying mutual funds so I can be diversified. My
Right.
argument to that would be, you're not really diversified. You just own a ton of mutual funds. Real diversification is you've got that mixed bag. You've got a little bit of the stock and CDs over here, and you've got some real estate assets over here. That spreads your risk, that mitigates your risk, so that if one asset class or the other inevitably has some issues, whether it's because of interest rates or the stock market crashes, you're spread out to where you're not going to absorb 100% of that blow. You might be losing something over here, but this asset's stable and performing, so it balances that out. That's really what diversification is. And that's something that we encourage all of our clients to do. We don't want you to have all of it over here at Quest. Ideally, you have some with us that you own your real estate, and you've got some over there that you're performing in the stock market with. So you have that real diversification. That's the name of the game. And we're very honest and upfront about that.
Yeah. No, that's a great point. And, a lot of times folks, they have their 401k, like you and I were talking ahead of this, that, I have a 401k. I don't really, you don't get a lot of options.
Right.
Even as far as mutual funds, I mean, at least with a company generated one, you've got a list of, ones you can invest in, and you get to pick them and you get to change things up just a little bit. But there's just not a lot of variety. And
Right.
then if you leave your position, a lot of times folks, I'm sure you run into them all the time, that they just kind of let it sit with the old custodian and, sort of
not knowing what
just
to do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, maybe let's talk a little bit about that. If somebody wanted to fund one of these accounts themselves, husband and wife are sitting there saying, it'd be nice. I've got this that's invested in stocks, but I'd like to go ahead and maybe not roll one over. Although I know, you can tell us about that as well, and kind of the process in rolling one over.
Sure.
But also, if you just wanted to create one, what's the maximum contributions, those kind of things that you can do per year.
Sure. So you want to be aware of the type of account, number one, that you may currently have or that you're interested in having. So most people have in their 401k, those are, for lack of a better term, those are really a traditional IRA. Those are pre-tax accounts that are tax deferred. Your 401k kind of functions the same way as your traditional IRA, your SEP IRA, your simple IRA, where those earnings you're not paying taxes on now, you're deferring them. Hopefully in retirement, when you start taking those distributions, you're in a lower tax bracket, you pay lower taxes. So there's one option there. And typically if somebody has a traditional IRA, say at Fidelity, and they want to go buy some real estate with it, they wouldn't need to move every dollar they have at Fidelity over to Quest. You would need to move over the amount you need to do that deal. So it's simply it's opening the account at Quest, exact same traditional IRA you already have, transferring the funds from Fidelity over to us. And then you work with one of our dedicated people, either in real estate notes or private entities, that help you with that investment process to make sure that the paperwork is done correctly and we get the investment funded. With a 401k, you mentioned if somebody loses their job, leaves their job, whatever it is, what do you do with that 401k? I really started to learn about this stuff when I was VP of Investor Relations for Pinnacle, because about, I'd say 20% of our investors were IRA, trust, or 401k investors. And that really got me curious of, well, why are they doing this? What's the game here? Why are they doing it? And I started learning because of the tax benefits of doing it. It's a tax exempt entity. That's why they're investing with it. So if I have a 401k and I left Quest, for example, what do I do with it? Well, I have the option to either move that 401k to my new company, participate in their plan, take a distribution and pay a ton of taxes potentially. I got that money for myself. Or I can roll that 401k over into an IRA. So you want to be aware of if it's a tax deferred 401k, you got to roll that over to a like account. That'd be a traditional IRA, simple process. Roll those funds over to that. Now you have that IRA that can then go buy real estate with that. Don't have to move it all. You can take a portion of your 401k, move it into your new company plan, take the portion that you want to invest in real estate, move it over to a company like ours, and we'll take care of it from there for you. In terms of contribution limits, that really depends on the type of account, whether it's a personal plan like a traditional or a Roth, if it's an
Mhm.
employer plan like a SEP, simple, or a solo 401k, or if it's a specialty plan like a health savings account or an education savings account. They all have different contribution limits. And, it's like $7,000 a year for traditional and a Roth. That's the max. And if you're over the age of 50, you get that $1,000 catch up. The employer plans are a bit more sophisticated because that really is determined by your employment status, the type of account, how many employees you have, do you have employees? So for things like that, it's the call to action. Call one of the IRA specialists at Quest Trust to walk through that unique situation with you, because it may be different from person to person, especially if you're a self-employed individual. You want to understand those mechanics at a very deep level, and we take the time to educate those clients. So don't want to give a blanket answer on contributions, but call us 855-FUN-IRAs and let us dig through your scenario and find out and educate you and guide you on what maybe the best course of action would be. But very simple process at the end of the day.
Okay. And on you mentioned, so Quest can do all of those variety of different things. As far as, so tell me a little bit about the one for the entrepreneur who's self-employed, and has an opportunity to do it. What would you refer to it again as?
So there's three types of employer plans. There's a SEP IRA, which is just a simplified employer plan. That's for self-employed individuals. Maybe they've got a handful of employees. A simple IRA is traditionally what we've seen as people that have like small doctor's offices or dental practices where they've got a staff of, call it 20, call it 50, could even be 100. Allows for larger contributions in your traditional IRA, but you have the opportunity to also, the employee can either elect to defer or enter into that plan as well to make their own contributions. A solo 401k is really what we would consider the most powerful account that there is, but also being the most powerful, it's potentially the most dangerous because you're reporting to yourself. It's a business account. So there are specific qualifications that one has to meet in order to even have an account like a solo 401k. Got to be self-employed, no employees, et cetera, so forth. So you want to be aware of the advantages of these accounts, but more importantly, you want to be aware of the disadvantages potentially. We've got to be transparent with people, and we're going to tell you all the great things that these accounts can do and what it can set you up for. We're also going to have that hard conversation of, you need to be aware that this is potentially a dangerous account because of the reporting, because of the responsibility of record keeping, things of that sort. So we dive in at such an in-depth level to figure out, okay, is this really what makes sense to you? And asking very basic questions. If you're a self-employed individual, do you even pay yourself? Because that's the one major criteria for these types of accounts is you've got to have earned income in order to be able to contribute to them. Okay. So if you're a self-employed individual, you got to pay yourself a salary. And then from there, we break it down to what's the percentage that you're allowed from that percentage of salary to contribute to these types of accounts. So that is all things that we cover in those consultations. And it isn't like we just talk to you one time and bye. We continually talk to our clients. We call them on a consistent basis to make sure everything is going well with them. What did they like? What did they not like? What are the pain points? What are the successes? What can we do to help you further? And we're open books on that. That's what we're here for. That's why we are all employed, is we want to be of service to those clients and even our potential clients. Whether you're a client or not, it costs you $0.00 to call an IRA specialist at Quest to talk about your situation and get the education you need to make that decision on what the best path to go is.
Yeah, for sure. And on the solo 401k, you mentioned needing to have a salary. And you got a lot of self-employed individuals, right? They either don't necessarily give themselves a salary, or if they do, a lot of times, they're deducting enough that their actual income, it gets basically washed out. On a solo 401k, if you are having large deductions each year and kind of washing away your income, for a lack of a better way of saying it, does that prevent you at that point from being able to do a solo 401k or contribute that year?
From be able to make maximum contributions, but you also have to think that if Like say in a solo 401k, for example, and I don't have the number committed to memory. We have solo 401k experts on staff, but let's say that you wanted to put $60,000 in your solo 401k for the year.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what's the baseline that you got to pay yourself in order to do that? You got to pay yourself $60,000 to even be able to do that. So if I only made $30,000 in a year and I made a $60,000 contribution, the IRS is probably going to call me and ask, "Hey, what's going on here? You don't want to do that." Because there's also, this concept of livable wages. Things cost money: food, house, mortgage, rent, groceries, whatever it is. So you want to be strategic in how you do it. You don't want to deduct, and I made $15,000 this year. I put it all in a retirement account, or I made the max contribution when I really couldn't. Again, that goes back to the education of those consultations with our specialists, that we'll figure that out and be able to tell you what you can do and can't do, not from an opinion or what I think you should do, but from what the IRS, who governs this, and the Department of Labor says you can do. And
Right.
one's risk tolerance might be higher than somebody else. We could tell them what they can and can't do, and somebody might want to go rogue and, do the exact opposite. But I would stress to anybody, just know that if that reckoning comes, you're jeopardizing your entire retirement account potentially. So
Right.
educate yourself, do your due diligence and educate yourself, and lean on us to be that resource.
Okay. And maybe let's talk a little bit about you. And you mentioned it already, but some of the various things that you can invest in, or that you see folks investing in with a self-directed account.
It really runs the gamut. So it can be those, it's alternative assets, but I'll use the word traditional because it can be a house, whether it's wholesaling, fix and flipping, buy and hold, turnkey. You can invest in build to rent developments. Note investing is very popular because it's very passive. Your IRA becomes the bank. So it's your IRA, the lender, the borrower. We look at the promissory note, and that's what we go off of. Now, we're going to ask, is the person a disqualified person? And is the investment prohibited? So disqualified people, I need to say that it's you, your spouse, your parents, grandparents, children, grandchildren, their spouses, any companies they own, control, manage, or are highly compensated by. Everybody
Okay.
else on planet Earth is fair game for your IRA. It's just those people that you can't invest with, because those are potentially your heirs. So kind of up and down your family tree, those lineal ascendants and descendants can't use your IRA for that, because you as the IRA account holder could be perceived as receiving a personal benefit from doing a transaction with any of those disqualified persons. So again, that's something we cover in a full-blown consultation. But going back to what people invest in: turnkey, fix and flip, wholesale, note investing, secured or unsecured, private companies. Now that can be a startup, that can be self-storage, that can be apartments, that can be multifamily, it can be oil and gas, it can be a REIT, provided that it's a non-publicly traded, because again, Quest, we hold private assets. So in the event that I maybe invest my IRA dollars into a startup, when there's an IPO coming, I've got to move that asset now over to Fidelity. Once that company goes public, they can no longer hold it with us. You need to do the transfer of the asset over to a Fidelity, a Charles Schwab, TD Ameritrade, whomever that is. I've seen people use their IRA to invest in parking lots, garages, things like that, where they're making money every single day because people are parking in those lots every single day. It really can be anything under the sun you think of, as long as it's not a collectible, which, that can be stamps, that can be classic cars, vintage wine, rugs, paintings, or life insurance contracts. Those are the only two things that you can't take your IRA and invest in, per the rules of the IRS who govern these accounts.
Okay. So you say
So
you
knowing
can't,
those are only the two things
do
you
it.
can't, leaves a lot of other things that you can do.
Right. And the two things that you can't, you said art, that you can't invest into art.
So anything that's deemed a collectible, something that doesn't have a really hard appraised value, something that's a bit more sentimental in value. Like, I think that painting is worth $1 million. Well, I might look at it and think that's worth $1. Well, how do we know that? It's subjective. There's no real hard value with that. So anything that's deemed a collectible, and life insurance contracts. I can't go do infinite banking with my IRA. I can't take advantage of the infinite banking. I can't buy those contracts or debt with the IRA.
Okay. Makes sense. Makes sense. What are some advantages of investing within this self-directed IRA? You mentioned a big one, right? The tax benefit of it. But let's talk a little bit more about that.
So when you think about what an IRA is, it's a tax exempt entity. So it holds the same distinction as a nonprofit, as a church, things of that sort. So you're automatically coming out ahead because you get that tax exempt status. Now, if I'm using a traditional IRA or those employer plans, it's a tax deferred, I'm delaying it until such time I take distributions. So you personally, if my IRA owns a property or is invested in shares of a company and those dividends are all going back to my IRA, they don't touch me. They go all the way back to the IRA. So I am creating hopefully a ton of wealth to benefit me down the road when I retire. That gives me my security blanket. So from a tax exempt or tax deferred, tax free with a Roth IRA, all of those earnings become tax free if you invest with a Roth. That's very powerful when we're talking about an overall wealth building strategy. The best way to secure your wealth is to avoid paying taxes. The IRA allows that. So is that to say you shouldn't invest with your personal dollars? No, not at all. You should be investing your personal dollars in real estate that can benefit you today or even down the road. But you should also be investing as much as possible with that IRA because it's the only way that you're going to keep more of your money is having it sheltered inside that tax exempt entity. So that really, that trumps any other benefit to it. What is a disadvantage potentially to having an IRA? Well, illiquidity. If my money is tied up in there, I can't get it out. If I'm invested in a syndication as a 5-year hold, I can't take it out. Risk of doing a prohibited transaction. We're so thorough in our consultations with clients. I'd be shocked and amazed unless somebody just went rogue and wanted to do something egregious just to see if they could get away with it. Why anybody would ever do something prohibitive? Because we spell it out exactly what you can do and can't do. But there's a risk involved in that. But that's where you rely on us at Quest. Run your scenarios by us. We can't give you tax, legal, or investment advice, but I can tell you if that's going to be a prohibited transaction or not, just on the basis of what the deal is. So it's a hedge against a lot of the negatives that are in the market that I might be into personally, that I might be affected by personally today. If I invest my own dollars today, that might sting me today. Well, if I'm investing with my IRA, I can't touch that money anyway, unless I want to take a distribution and pay a huge penalty and taxes for doing it. Well, I'm going to let that ride over and over and over and over. So we talk about compounding wealth. That's the beauty of a self-directed IRA, is that's the very essence of it is it's compounding wealth to where you've got a big bucket of money waiting for you down the road in retirement. And then when you pass on, you get to pass that wealth on to your heirs. Those beneficiaries now get to take advantage of that. And then they pass it on to their heirs and so on. It's one of the best ways that you can build generational legacy wealth inside of these accounts.
For sure. What about if you're investing in, for instance, a syndication, apartment syndication, whatever it may be, and you're putting money into it, a lot of the benefit if you were putting money, say from just like my bank account in, is depreciation. For when it's within the self-directed IRA, whichever format here, you really can't take depreciation. Am I correct on that, or am I
No, you're 100% correct. And
okay.
as soon as you started laying it out, I knew where this was going. So that's right. If you own a property in your IRA, a $100,000 property, and you paid $100,000 for it, you can't claim the depreciation.
Right.
But guess why you can't claim the depreciation? Because you're not paying any taxes.
Right.
So you don't get the tax incentive to offset taxes when there are no taxes to even pay. That's the beauty of it. So think about it. If I invest my personal funds and I invest in something, what am I going to do to avoid paying the taxes? I'm probably going to 1031 exchange that. And I'm going to keep 1031ing it. What am I doing? I'm delaying the taxation until such time that I'm retired and hopefully in a lower tax bracket to where I'm not giving as much of that to the government as possible. Same thing in an IRA. I'm investing in an IRA to avoid paying taxes. Now, where would an IRA pay taxes? Because that does happen. So I just said you can't claim depreciation because it's an IRA. Well, take that same $100,000 house, and I take $50,000 from my IRA and I go buy that house, but where do I get the other 50 from? Well, I took on a non-recourse loan. It's the only type of loan an IRA can take. I take that non-recourse loan to now go buy the property. So what happens? I'm now 50% debt leveraged in this scenario. This is where depreciation will come in. Because I'm debt leveraged, I can depreciate the debt leverage portion of the earnings. So if I made $50,000 on that investment, well, 50% of that I can depreciate because I had a loan on it. That depreciation is going to go down. That tax is going to go down because I'm paying off as I go. If that makes sense, that's where depreciation would come into an IRA is if you're in a debt leverage situation or if the IRA has to pay taxes. The IRA can pay taxes, not you, the individual. But if I'm invested in a syndication probably has debt on it. So in an LLC, being a pass-through entity, they pass that on to the investors. Get your K1, at the top, what are my deductions? Well, if my IRA is invested in it, Quest Trust Company, FBO, Kurt Power, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that's the investor, not me personally. My IRA is. So I'm going to get the K1. And if my IRA has to pay taxes, well, I'm going to go to a CPA and I'm going to depreciate just as I would as an individual to find out what my IRA could really have to pay. So again, it's just knowing how to use debt leverage, how to use other people's money, just as I would in the real world. I can do the same thing in the IRA world, but you want to be aware that your IRA could potentially pay taxes in a debt leverage scenario. Again, nothing to be scared of. It's to be aware of. And how do most people build wealth through real estate? They do it with other people's money. So you can do the exact same thing in an IRA. Again, don't be scared of paying taxes. You're paying taxes. I say my hat's off to you. You did well. You made money on your investment. And how do we figure out how to not pay as much taxes as possible? Now we use depreciation. That's where a CPA comes into play.
And you're referring to UBIT, right? You hear UBIT out there, but what does that stand for? It's
unrelated business income tax. So there's UBIT, and then there's a subset of UBIT called UDFI, unrelated debt financed income.
Okay.
On from the same family, so to speak, but they're a little bit different. So you think about, I use the example of a church. If I have a church and that church has a coffee shop inside of it, and it's selling crosses, Bibles, religious paraphernalia, that relates to the business. It's related to the church. Well, if that church opens up a Pizza Hut inside of it or a Subway, does that have anything to do with the church? No. So the government is going to say, hey, tax exempt entity, you have an unfair advantage over Joe Smith, taxpayer over here, who's doing the same investment. So if a business if an IRA is running a business inside of the IRA, UBIT comes into play because the income generated from that business can be subject to trust rate taxes, which is about 39%. So even in that scenario, which we cover in consultations, well, how do we avoid that? Well, we phrase it loan, don't own. Loan the money to the property, don't buy the property. Invest in a different type of entity like a C Corp or that magic bullet that we call it, that solo 401k, which has the specific exemption from UBIT inside of it. So those are all the mechanics of what we talk about with our clients and prospective clients as we paint the whole picture for people, because these are real world questions that are going to come up. So UDFI is simply that debt leverage situation, unrelated debt financed income. I may pay taxes on the debt leverage portion of my earnings from that investment. So if I was 50% debt leveraged in year one, well, potentially 50% of my income could be subject to taxes. That other 50 goes right back into my IRA free and clear. So again, you're still coming out ahead, even if you are paying taxes.
Right.
Because it's just on that small percentage that's debt leveraged.
Yeah, I think those are all good examples of why it's so important to be with somebody when you're doing this that has been in the business, that has the experience. You mentioned education being a huge piece of what you guys do, but just being able to educate the customer so they know they don't, if they have, ultimately, a lot of folks are going to have a choice as to which type that they utilize, and they're going to need to weigh the options of which type fits really what they're trying to do.
Exactly. Exactly. But I think
And
that the biggest thing with education, you touched on that, and that's what we pride ourselves on, is we're a little bit different as IRA specialists. I can't sell you an investment. So if you go to Fidelity, they're going to give you the recommendation of what they think you should buy. I can't do that. I can only tell you what you can do and can't do and run through your scenario. But that's why we do so much education, both on consultations and hosting events in our Austin office, our Houston office, our Dallas office. Is we've got to give clients and prospective clients an idea of what they can do. So we invite people from all over the country to come give presentations, to set up booths at our events, because that's the room you want to be in. It's no different than if you go to your local meetup, your local RIA, your local mastermind, whatever it is. That's where you're going to find your deals in all likelihood, because you're dealing with people you like, trust, and respect. Those are the first type of people you're going to want to do business with. We create that environment that's conducive for deal flow, for people to actually take that IRA. Now they have an idea and they had an opportunity to build a relationship to some degree with the people who are there, those sponsoring companies, towards a nice icebreaker. And now they can get down to the mechanics of the deal and if they think it makes sense for them. Probably the biggest thing we do from an education standpoint is our Quest Expo, which is this June 27th to the 29th up at the Irving Convention Center in Dallas. That's 3 days of education. So again, whether you have an IRA or not, I would encourage everybody to make their plans to be there, because you're going to have 1,000 attendees, all real estate investors or people who are interested in real estate, and probably 20, 25 breakout sessions and main stage sessions with people who are actually doing the deals that people want to be doing. So what better environment to be able to find to put your IRA dollars, your personal dollars to work with a group of like-minded individuals, over 1,000 people who are doing the things that people are doing and want to be doing.
Yeah, for sure. That sounds like a great event. And that's a once a year deal that y'all put together?
Yeah. So we started doing it in 2018, 2018, 2019, 2020. Obviously with COVID, everything got derailed. We did the last one in 2022 here in Houston, and then we took a year off for planning, and then we're going full bore for Dallas in June. So it's one of the largest alternative investing conferences in the country. And we're kind of saying it beforehand, there's an IRA slant to everything that we do, because it's our company, it's our events. So we're going to talk about IRAs, we're going to talk about legislative issues with it, government issues, et cetera. But people would be remiss if they didn't recognize that not everybody in that room is going to use an IRA. Not everybody's going to invest with the IRA, borrow from the IRA. Point being, it's the room you want to be in, because that's where deals are happening. It's where deals are being talked about. So whether you have an IRA or not, you will benefit mightily from coming to our educational events. You'll benefit mightily from coming to the expo in June.
Yeah, for sure. And is there a cost associated with attending, or is it what?
The expo is the only thing that we charge for. So people can go to www.questexpo.com. If you want to sponsor the event, that's great. There's opportunities there. But if you just want to buy a ticket to the event, all that information is there. That's the only thing that we charge people for. Our classes that we do every Tuesday and every Saturday, 100% free. Our quarterly socials in Houston, Austin, and Dallas that are in person at our respective offices, 100% free, whether you're a client or a non-client. We feel that if we give our clients and our non-clients the best education possible, our current clients are going to be happy and continue to do business and send us referrals. And those people who aren't our clients are going to be our clients, because we've equipped them with the tools necessary to succeed.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah. I mean, if you're helping to educate them, I mean, it's just the next natural step, right? After they've learned they can do this. You've mentioned a couple times borrowing against. What are the limitations if you do start to build up and amass funds within your self-directed IRA? Do you have an opportunity? I know, like in my typical 401k, it's capped at 50 grand that you can borrow against it. But what is it the same kind of format there, or?
No, because that would be considered a prohibited transaction if you borrowed money from your IRA because you're a disqualified person to your IRA. You can't receive a
Ah,
personal
okay.
direct benefit from it. So when we talk about loans from the IRA, we're talking the IRA is essentially the bank. So if I have my
Okay.
IRA and I've got $500,000 in my IRA and I don't want to buy houses with it because I don't want to deal with tenants and issues like that, and I don't know enough about apartments or storage, I maybe don't want to do a syndication deal. I know that I'm really good at lending money and sourcing deals and that I become the bank. So my borrower can now borrow money from my IRA. We have a promissory note, it's either secured or unsecured. What's it secured by? We would want to know that. And we process that transaction on behalf of the IRA account holder, send funds to the borrower. And then the borrower, when it comes time to pay, whether it's interest only or they have to pay everything on that schedule, they send money back to the IRA. That's how the payments work. So let's say I loan money to somebody on a house and they default on the loan or they
Right.
don't pay, whatever. Well, just like in the bank's going to take my house if I don't pay for it. Same situation. My IRA is the bank. I can foreclose on that house. Now, depending on the state, determines how easy that is or how difficult that is. But just know that if it's secured by the asset and that borrower doesn't pay, well, go take the asset. You're going to get
Yeah,
made whole
for
from something.
sure.
You not get all your money back from the person that borrowed. But if you foreclose on the asset, well, congratulations, you just did very well. I would still argue you've done very well. And it's a bad situation, but
Yeah.
there's positive that can come out of that.
No, for sure. That I think, and that's a huge advantage of a lot of the alternative assets. They're hard assets. They're you have an ability to be invested in something. A stock. It's likely not going to go to zero, but it has the potential to go to zero. Right?
100%.
Companies have the potential to go out of business. So things can happen. That they with an alternative asset there is typically a hard asset that's backing it, and so
Right.
you have a little bit more security from that standpoint.
And we see unsecured loans all the time. Typically, what comes with an unsecured loan is a much, much, much higher interest rate. If I'm loaning
Right,
somebody
right,
money unsecured, the interest rate might be 40, 50% because
right.
that's my security is knowing that you're going to pay me a ton of money for the risk I'm taking.
For sure, for sure. Kurt, let me ask you this: is there anything I haven't asked that maybe I should have when it comes to your company, your product? Anything else you would like to share with the audience?
I think the biggest thing is again, I said it at the beginning and I say to lots of people, I'm very passionate about self-directed IRAs. I'm very passionate about helping people. And I'm certainly passionate about Quest Trust Company. We'll find a way that we can help you. And if we can't help you, we're very transparent. We'll say we don't have anything for you, or maybe your situation just isn't conducive for it. So know that when you're working with us, I don't get paid on somebody doing an investment. That's not why Quest pays me. I have no skin in the game. It's not that I don't care. It's just that I don't have that position where I can tell you it's good or bad because I don't have anything personally invested in it. Quest compensates us very well by giving away education and giving away our
Yeah.
time and helping people, really helping people. So I would really just stress to people to understand that if you're doing business with Quest, you're doing business with the best people in the industry, the most highly educated, and really the people who understand it because we're investors ourselves. That's not taking a shot at other companies. I'm sure other IRA companies have people that invest as well. Um, but my time in this industry, there's a reason why I came to Quest. They were my client in the past, and I loved working with them. So much so that when I moved to Houston and started going to their events, you couldn't help but get swept up in the culture. It was like, my God, these people work as hard as anybody I've ever seen, but they all have a smile on their face. Like, I want to be part of that.
Right, right.
And I think people want to feel like they're part of something more than anything else. I think people want to feel like they belong to something. So I tell everybody when you come work with Quest, either as an employee or as a client, you're getting a first class experience. You're getting something meaningful and you're going to have a ton of fun along the way.
Yeah, wow, that's great. And what about how can people find out more about you if they want to invest? If they want to get with your company and learn more about how they can either roll something over, they can create something,
Sure.
kind of get their questions answered. What's the best way for them to reach you, Kurt?
So the best things to do is go to our website, questtrustcompany.com. We have a ton of resources there to help start to educate you on the process. We have, I think it's 12 recorded classes taught by IRA specialists at Quest about a variety of different topics, from buying property subject to inherited IRAs, to employer plan IRAs, to syndication. We have classes for everything. Go to our YouTube channel and click on the video section. We have thousands of videos taught by Quest employees, taught by people from all over the United States. That's when you really start to understand, okay, what can I invest in? But the best thing you can do is give us a call, 855-FUN-IRAs. Ask to speak to an IRA specialist. We love it when people call us because it's what we love to do. So call us anytime. It's free. Costs you nothing to explore the possibility of what you could be doing with these types of accounts.
Yeah, for sure. All right, Kurt, I've got two other questions for you that I ask every guest, and I think we've kind of reached that spot. So, how about giving advice to somebody who maybe is just starting out in their investment journey? What advice would that be?
Don't just take the deal that comes along. Be patient. Learn to say no to certain things. More important, I think, than doing your due diligence on the deal is doing due diligence on the people involved in the deal. You want to know their track record. You want to know their success rate. You want to know their failure rate. You want to know what they did when things did not go according to plan. Were they proactive? Were they reactive? Or did they just go radio silent? Build your network. Surround yourself with people who are smarter than you are. Because we all started off at the same place. We all started off not knowing anything. And I'm the first to admit, I don't know everything there is to know. And that's why I try to continually surround myself with people who are better and smarter than I am that are going to help me get to where I go. And I've been doing this 10 years and I'm still seeking out mentorship, still seeking out a better way of doing things. So I would encourage anybody who's just getting started, one, don't be afraid, because you're going to get analysis paralysis if you do that. Eventually you got to take the leap. If you lose money on a deal, don't swear off real estate investing. Just know that that's part of the deal. You lose money in your 401k every day and you're not cussing out the guy at Fidelity. So just know that you're going to roll with the punches. You're going to roll with the punches on this. You're going to win some, you're going to lose some, but you keep progressing forward. That's the message of anything in life. Roll with it, keep moving forward, keep striving for more, surround yourself with better, smarter people, lean on people, get mentorship, read as many books as you possibly can, and treat this like it's a business. Treat this like it's something that is an opportunity to really catapult your life to a place you never thought it could go.
I think that's solid advice. All of it. There was quite a bit in there. So that's awesome. How about book recommendation? Anything? It doesn't have to be real estate or investment related, but anything impactful that you've read recently that you'd like to share with the audience?
I will always go back to the book Emotional Intelligence by Daniel Goleman, one of the greatest books you could ever read, period. Traction by Gino Wickman. That will teach you as a business owner the most important thing in the world. People are your greatest resources. And as long as you have systems and processes in place, you'll know very quickly if you've got your team following direction with you. I just read Arnold Schwarzenegger's new book, Be Useful. I would think that's one of the best books anybody can read. Whether you like Arnold or not is irrelevant. You can't deny that guy's been successful at the most elite level in 3 different realms: sports, entertainment, politics. It's a guy you can learn a lot from. The book Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell, phenomenal book.
Yeah.
I just started reading a book called The 4 Agreements as well. So I try to read minimum a book a month, but many times it's more than that. But I think that I would tell everybody, if you want to have great business relationships, you want great personal relationships, read the book Emotional Intelligence first and foremost.
Okay. No, those are all solid recommendations. So, all right,
You can
Kurt.
read Blue
Well, I
Fishing by
appreciate
Steven Sims too. I'd say Blue Fishing. You
what
got to
is
read
it?
Blue Fishing too. Blue Fishing by Steven
Okay.
Sims. It's the art of getting things done. It's a phenomenal book. It'll teach you real quick about get out of your comfort zone and just make things happen.
Awesome. All right. I asked for one and you gave me a ton. So we appreciate it. That's fantastic.
I'm a bit of a nerd. It's okay.
Well, Kurt, this has been a lot of fun, and appreciate you being on the Wealth Flow. And I think we'll call it a show, but have a great weekend.
You too, man. And next time I'm in San Antonio, I'll look you up. When you're in Houston, give me a call anytime, all right?
Yeah, sounds good, man. I'll shoot you.
Being that you're still here, I trust you found value in this episode. I personally wish I would have known these guests and strategies when I started my wealth creation journey. Go to wealthflow.capital to subscribe to our newsletter. And as a free gift, we will send you our quarterly market report and the top 10 things to look for in an investment opportunity. Take a minute to give our show a rating and review. Help us reach 1 million professionals by subscribing and sharing this episode with someone you know who could also find value in it.